I recorded. Okay. So now that you have the Peardeck add-on, you want to open the Peardeck add-on. So first I have my Google Slide presentation, right? In Google Slide, I have a question I want to ask. There's some text for us, the content. There's a video that I'd like for us to watch. A nice routine protocol activity to kind of summarize what we just watched. And then maybe a little vocab practice. And then, of course, and again, this is not necessarily the best lesson. And I could share this presentation with you afterwards that you could use pieces of it. I'm not sure if this presentation you would use in that 30 minutes, right? Some pieces, like these last two pieces, probably wouldn't be in the same lesson. It would be follow-ups. However, you know, I just kind of put it together so you can see the things that you can do in Google Slides or Google Slides and Peardeck. So then you have, I want students to be able to fill this out, and then I want, maybe there's a Regents question I want them to practice at the end. So this is kind of an example of a presentation. So first thing we need to do is open our Peardeck. And again, you could do it one of two ways. Go to add-ons, click on the Peardeck for Google Slide add-ons, and open Peardeck add-on. When you do that, it will show up right on the right side, this panel. Or I can click on Peardeck because I have the extension. It will do the same thing. Doesn't matter. You'll get it either way. If you accidentally close it out, you click X. You can, again, go back the same way. Nothing changes. Just go back and click on Peardeck or the add-ons Peardeck, and you get the bar again. So now I'm going to add the elements to this. There are multiple things that you could add. You can add audio to slides, which is really neat for our students, you know, our SPED students, our L students, and really all our students. They could add audio, because this presentation could be done in two ways. It could be done as a teacher-led, so something you do synchronous with students, but this presentation I could also do asynchronous, where students are doing it on their own at their own pace. So adding audio to slides is really cool, and then you don't have to worry about an external website where you're recording your voice. You can just use Peardeck for that. You can take the pages and ask students to either type in text, multiple choices, or polls, numbers. Numbers are great for like maybe ordering things or just putting in a number for a solution. Website, drawing, and draggables. There's also a bunch of templates, and I'll show you those. So you can spend quite a bit of time just looking at the resources that they already have. Before I add the templates, I'm going to just work with what I already have in my presentation. And you don't need to change each page to something interactive, just the ones you want. So for instance, this page right here, the cell theory, it's just a title, right? There's nothing that I want my students to do other than read it, look at it, it's kind of cool. So I don't have to do anything with it. But this one right here, the selfie, I want students, this is kind of like my hook, right? I want students to look at this image under a microscope and answer this question. How would you describe this image? Right now, unless I put a text box in here, there's no opportunity for them to type in the response, or you'd say, type it in the chat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna click on the text for Peardeck. And what this is going to do, and I'll show you as a student as well when we play this, but all this does is take my page and now adds a text box when I present it to students. And so then students are going to be able to type in that text box, and I'll see the responses. I can see them anonymously, as well as using the teacher dashboard for Peardeck. I can see exactly what each student wrote, and I can give each individual student feedback, which is pretty cool. And it saves for you. So even when you're done with the session, you still have all the information of how students did. What happens when you do Peardeck is you get this bar. Make sure you don't delete the bar. If you delete this bar, it becomes a regular slide again. So if I delete it, it's now a regular slide. Nothing happens. So I'm going to have to do the text again for it to be a Peardeck slide. What I like about Peardeck is you still have Google Slides. I could still fix things on here. It just creates this bar. Sometimes this bar covers up the content you want, so I could right click on it and order it and send it back. So it goes in the back of the content. So you can see like my text boxes, I could cover it up. You know, the bar needs to still be there, but it doesn't have to be visible. So that's how I changed this question. That was all I had to do. So I go to the next slide. This is content that I want to read. Maybe I want to read it with students. Maybe I want to add the audio to the slide. I'm not going to do it just because of time, but I could add audio to the slide and read all this content. And that way, the students can read it or listen to it, which is, again, a great option. All right, so you can do that with this slide. The next slide is just a video I want them to watch, or maybe I don't even want them to watch. I want them to watch it with me. That's fine. So I have this video embedded. If you're not sure how I embedded it, I went into Insert, went to Video, and then you can search, you know, whatever you want on YouTube, like cell theory. Click on it and then select, and then it will put it right in here. Do double check that it's a video that is approved for students to watch. And then I also recommend, if you want to make it shorter, things like that, embed some questions in it using something like Edpuzzle, which you also have a paid version for if you haven't known. So that, you know, again, there's nothing much I can do here. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which is my 6-word summary that I want students to fill out. Now, I'm not going to choose the text option, because with the text option, what happens is you just get one box for the students to type in. What I want my students to do is type in each one of these boxes. So with that, you're going to choose the drawing option. The drawing options gives you one of two things. The students can either draw or freehand write, obviously using their mouse, where they can choose the pen colors and write. They could choose the thickness, or they can actually use text boxes and type into this, which I want them to do. So, and again, the drawing one, what it does is let the students do it all over this page. So I'm gonna just click on the draw. And again, you'll see nothing really that I'm doing other than putting this drawing tool on here. That's all it does. Nothing changes here. If I need to modify something, I have to do it actually on the slide. And then I'm gonna just move this back as well. I don't know if it'll even go back, but order it and move to the back. You know, I could cover it up if I need to give students more space to write. This right here is a Quizlet activity, which I deleted. That's awesome. This had a Quizlet link that you could add using a website. So again, using things, and I guess I won't do it this time because I deleted the link accidentally, but if you ever use Padlet or Flipgrid, you know, and you have those individual links, or even Jamboard. If you guys have been using Jamboard for collaborative activities, you can get the link and then just click on the website and you'll see what happens. It'll ask for the website that you put in here. So I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have a website. I deleted it. Then on slide 7, this is again one where I want students to write on. So I'm going to use the drawing tool. And again, what that does is it just makes it that students can draw on it or type on it on this paper. So again, as you notice, it's pretty simple to use because I'm not really doing anything to my slide. I already had my slide. This was a screenshot, right, of a Regents question. So for this one, I'm going to use multiple choice, and you notice the questions are, you know, the choices are A, B, C, D. So I can do choices and then put in A, B, C, D. Now, I would like to type in the specific choices. The problem is it covers it if you see, so I don't remember what the answers are, but that's okay, because what students see is on one side, they'll see the slide with the question and the choices, and on the other side, they'll see the A, B, C, D that they choose. But this is a good one for polling also. You could do true, false. You can just ask kids for ideas, all that. So that's it, right? Like, so if you have a presentation, if you've been teaching with Google Slides, it really took me 5 minutes to add the different elements to the pages. There's a lot of variations. I would definitely suggest, if this is something of interest to you, there's a Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, Peardeck Facebook group, people come up and show their examples. If you're on Twitter, or just Googling and saying, hey, you know, what are some Peardeck examples, in case you want some ideas of how to use these. The other thing before I want to start the session is I also want to show you the templates that they have. They have a tremendous amount of templates. You could add them to any of your presentation. They have lesson builders for beginning, during, and the end of the lessons, including like exit ticket templates. They have some critical thinking, some social emotional learning. There's also ideas for different content areas that you can check out, and the things that they've done for different subject areas. Let's say I want something maybe at the end. I could go to the end of the lesson and I can see the different activities that they have. And so you can see, like, they have, and they say what kind of slide it is. This is a drawing slide. What's really cool with these is not only are they imported into Google Slides, but you can edit them. So you could retype the text, you could put your own text, you could put your own images. So it's pretty neat. So what I wanted, because I wanted to show you what a draggable slide looks like, kind of like the one we did in the beginning with the bar. This one, so how well did you like this lesson? This is a nice exit ticket per se, just a self-check. Maybe you want to change this, and it takes a second to add it to your presentation. Maybe you want to change this to say something like, how well do you understand the learning target, right? Like that could be a question. You can change every one of these pieces of text too, which is kind of cool. And then you can see that what the students will get is a dot, a blue dot, and then they're going to move their blue dot to the appropriate place. So I am done with my lesson, right? I put Peardeck on. Now this is where a little mistake sometimes happens with teachers, especially in the beginning of using Peardeck. Just because you added these Peardeck bars does not mean that if I were to go to share right now, and I'll do that, I'm going to change the sharing, and I'm going to share this link with you guys so you can click on it. You're not going to get the activity where students will interact with it. What you're going to get is the slide deck, and some of you are already in it, with these Peardeck bars. You can do the same thing with students. You can share this link or add this link into Google Classroom, but again, it's not going to do anything for the students. The students still not going to type anything in here unless they insert text. So in order for you to actually use this with students with Peardeck, you have to go back to the Peardeck add-on if you closed it. And right here in this green button, you have to start the lesson. Without starting the lesson, the kids can't do anything with it other than looking at the slide deck. When you click start lesson, you have two options. What's always cool is you could always change this later. So you could start with instructor pace, which is like great for synchronous instruction, but then actually go back and change it afterwards to student pace. So maybe you didn't finish the entire lesson and you want students to finish it for that asynchronous learning on Wednesday, right? Or something like that. You can change it to student pace and let students continue with a handout, with a presentation. So I'm going to click instructor pace. It's going to load. It just gives it about, I don't know, 30 seconds or so to launch the presentation. And the first thing that happens is you get this joinpd.com with the letters, just like you guys did in the beginning of our session. So this is what you would do with students. So then, just like I did with you, you would tell the students, open a new tab in your Chrome browser, type in join PD and put in the code. Or you give student this link in the chat. You can do that as well. Copy this link in, give it in the chat, or put it in Google Classroom. This is the link that you'd want students to have, not the link of the presentation, you know, when I wasn't sharing it, if that makes sense. So the one I put, the link of the first one, right, like the link that I just posted in the chat of the presentation, the slide presentation, that is not started in Peardeck. This is a different link that's actually a Peardeck link. So that's a big one that I want you guys to kind of think about, because without that, you'll have a great presentation, but it won't work for students. Do you guys want to try, because I see 3 people are already connected. If you want to try to connect to this one, just kind of seeing, so you saw me add those elements, right? So I added a short answer question, I added a multiple choice, added a template, right? Added some drawing pieces. So you can see what that looks like. And then what I can do is I could start the class. I only had 4 people that signed up. That's fine. If you have more people that want to join, here's the code right on the top corner. So you just go to joinpd.com and then put in this code. If you're, again, teacher and, you know, the students are like, Miss, I missed it. What's the code? You could click on this and it like opens the whole page up, which is really nice as well. And then again,
show us the teacher dashboard.
Yes, I can show you the teacher dashboard. So yeah, so what happens when you do this is you get a teacher dashboard that pops up. I'm going to stop sharing, because what I need to do is actually share my desktop for you to see the teacher dashboard. Because what happens, right, and now you could see, I think, the dashboard, the whole thing. What happens when you get the teacher dashboard is you get a new window that opens up. And that's really good, because really what you want to do is you want to share with students the window right here, but you don't want to really show the students this dashboard. If you use multiple screens, you could put this on a multiple screen so you could see it simultaneously as well. What's nice with the teacher dashboard is you can see student responses, who is actually responding. So for instance, here's my first question for you guys, right? It says, how would you describe this image? So just put in something. If you are, you know, signed up and you're doing this, just type something in. Now I have 2, 3 people, 4 people responded. On here, if I click show responses, you'll see it's anonymous, okay? Because if you're showing it to students, a lot of times you don't necessarily want them to see who wrote what. Now on my dashboard though, and this is again why you would really just share your window and not the desktop, because this window opens up in a new window, you won't be able to see, or the students won't be able to see this, right? But I can see exactly who wrote the answers. I can like it and star the answer. I can also leave feedback. So I can say, great notice. Do you see anything else, right? Whatever, right? And then I can send feedback. Now with Vicky, what you're gonna see is on the bottom, right over here, there's like a Q or something. I don't know. I think it's a bubble, but it looks like a Q to me. And you'll see a little 1 next to it, which means that I gave you feedback. So you can see what I wrote on that response. So that's kind of cool. And then I could also see who hasn't responded, right? So then I can, again, give the students feedback, even maybe privately in the chat, and say, hey, Nicole, you know, I noticed that you haven't responded to this question. Do you need any help? Whatever, right?
Can students respond to your feedback? Like you asked her a question, because I've done that and they don't really know how to answer me back.
Yes, it pops up and it says, do you want, you know, to respond to the comment?
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, these are great. Awesome questions. So that's really neat. So one of, I think, the limitations of Peardeck is the collaborative piece. There is really no way of collaborating. This is very like individual student kind of, I give a question, each student responds, but you can still bring those collaborative elements to it, like including a Jamboard activity or a Padlet, where the students can see each other responses, or again, depending on the responses, showing the responses to kids and then talking about it and saying, oh, look at all the responses that we've seen. Is there anything else that you want to add to it? Things like that. And then I just want to show you something. So with the video, because I have the extension, you can click on this video and it'll open up in a new window or a new tab. Unfortunately, there's no way for it to play right on this page. But I could also, not have a video and I just play the video, right? That you don't need to listen to it yourself. But that's a way. Now, this would not work with without the extension. Without the extension, this would be a static image and you can't click on it. So that's why I highly recommend an extension. I could also, if you notice, like if you go back to my Zoom and look at my window, I have an option to do a new prompt. So I could add something very quickly. Like I did, I thought about, we just watched this video and there's a great question that I didn't even think about beforehand. I can click on the new prompt and add very quickly one of the templates where I can have them, fill out maybe even just a quick true or false, or whatever it is. Here is the drawing one, so you can look and see what that looks like. You'll notice you have a bunch of different colors of items that you could pick to draw. You can change the thickness. Sometimes the thickness of a line is pretty thick, so you can change the thickness of that line. And you can also use the text feature to type. And then I can show responses. And see the responses, either an overlay, which wouldn't really make sense, but you could see what people are doing. So it's cool. Yeah, just play around with it so you can see what it looks like. So some people, and I will say the drawing tool isn't easy. So for this one, I would definitely recommend kids typing. But when you have, a big space and you want to just draw one thing, the drawing tool isn't too bad to use, especially if you change the thickness of the line. So again, as you notice, if you go back to my screen, you'll see that it's anonymous, which is again really neat, because then I could share everything for students to see that, look, I'm seeing that you guys are writing, but it's anonymous. Where on my dashboard, you'll see the names on there, and that's where I can give them feedback. And I can see how many students are on here and how many are working on it. I could also, again, lock the screen if I want students to focus on my dashboard or like on my page instead of having them write on it, which is neat. And then again, this is very similar. I'm just going to skip through. This is the multiple choice, so you can see what that looks like. What I don't like is it's kind of covering up my question on my bar. I don't know if I like that, if you see that. So I might want to make the image a little bit smaller, but you guys should see it, right? Like you should see, as students, they see the entire page and they can see what I do like is on one side, it's the image that I have for slides, and then the other is just A, B, C, D. And this one is really cool because when you show responses, this is kind of similar to like Kahoot, kind of, if you've ever played that, or quizzes, but you can see the responses and you can see what people have done. And then you could talk about, some error that students could have had, or maybe it's a polling question and you could, argue, disagree, agree on the concepts. And then this one, I just wanted to quickly show you, I know it's time to go, is the draggable icon one. The other thing that I could just quickly, before we go, show you, when you're done with this activity, you could end the session, and if you end, if you end the session right away, it stops everything for your students, and then you do get a data that you can go back and check. But the other thing you can do is click on these three dots, and what I could turn on my student pace. And what that will do is now give an option for students to continue that work if they haven't finished, or if students that maybe weren't at the synchronous instruction, they weren't there for Zoom, they could still click on the link that you put in Google Classroom and they could work on it. I could also stop student pace. And when I do that, when I turn the student pace on, now I have two options. End the session means you totally stop it, or I can leave the session. So if I leave the session, you guys are going to be able to continue as students working on the session, answering all the questions until you feel like you're done with it. Where I don't have to be on it. I can totally close it off, but I could also see on the dashboard where people are, how many students are in which page of my session, and I could always go back and check the work. So that's pretty neat. But that's kind of, in a nutshell, Peardeck for you. I know it's kind of fast, but please check out, there's going to be an email sent out tomorrow from the district letting everybody know that we do have the paid Peardeck account. And we will also remind you of some resources in RCSD Learns where you could learn a little bit more about Peardeck. And then we're going to have forthcoming professional development, some for PD credits. So it'll be after school hours, webinars that actually Peardeck is going to run for us. And then we might do some ones on Wednesdays like we just did with you, maybe for the entire district. We're still working on that. So there's definitely going to be opportunities. But if you have questions, just email Brian or myself. We can definitely help you out, or check out in RCSD Learns. If you've been to RCSD Learns, it's also in the Rock Connect, and there's RCSD Learns. But if you go to online support, you can go and access us, Brian, myself, and others. We have our virtual office hours. There should be at least somebody there between the hours that you need help. And if not, again, just email us and we could help you kind of work through some of the kinks if you're working with Peardeck. And I don't know, Brian, if there's anything else you want to say. I know it's
just that, like, the Peardeck puts your interactive elements next to the slide, so there's not like a real easy way to preview what the students are going to see.
Yeah, the one way that I do it is I just go to joinpd.com, open a new window, and just log in. Yeah, like just log in, as myself, and then I could see the student version. You could also use a different email account if you want, just to try it. So just kind of like with Google Classroom, people have been doing, where they just add themselves, like their personal account as a student, to see what the student looks like. It would be the same.
And then the other one was, if I forgot to open the teacher dashboard and started my session, is there a way I can open it while it's going?
Yeah, so the three dots, and I kind of stopped sharing, but the three dots where, remember I showed you
where you ended the session.
Where the ending the session, starting, yeah, there is an option there to go to the dashboard. So you could always go to the dashboard from there. Great questions.
Do you have to set up an account for this first? Like on the slide that I opened with the extension, to add the audio, it actually says like premium, and you click on that, like it says you have to be like a premium member or something like that.
Premium. Yeah, so what I would do is when you add the add-on, click on it the first time, and it might ask you to log in. Just log in with your RCSD 121 account, your Google account. As long as you log in that first time, you're good to go, because we have linked all of the RCSD 121 accounts to the paid accounts. So you're right, Brian, it was a paid version. I didn't know it was a paid version for audio. Brian was right. We were talking about this earlier.
Don't doubt me.
Yeah, so Chris said about Nearpod. Yes, it is very similar to Nearpod. Nearpod has a lot more elements to it. But, there's certain things that I like about Peardeck more so than Nearpod, and some things that are really good about Nearpod that Peardeck doesn't have. Nearpod is very expensive. It's literally twice as much as what we paid for Peardeck. And I think because we have other pieces, like we have Edpuzzle, which is great for videos. We have other Google tools like Jamboard or Padlet that we have paid for the collaborative things. We felt like there was just really no reason for Nearpod. Peardeck also plays a lot better with Google Slides, so you can still keep the Google Slides as is.